Hey everybody, welcome back to another InterSleuths video. Today, Mainframe just dropped the June 18th patch notes on us. It's one of the first biggest patches for verse 3 to fix some of the issues that it's been having since its release. So without further ado, let's hop into these patch notes and see what they fixed, what was good about the fixes, what was bad about the fixes, and what is left to still be fixed for verse 3. First up, we have Combat XP, which is a big one. We noticed that the Combat XP just did not quite feel right when you were in a party, and now we have some explanations as to why that is. The Combat Skill XP requirements and ranges of XP earned from enemies have been comprehensively revamped. The XP for a Tier 1 base level enemy is now 100 XP, with other enemies scaling this number up or down based on the enemy tier and rank. The resulting combat XP requirements are now very close to the crafting skills. The way I see this is the XP required for your crafting skills is immense, so it's still going to take you a lot of experience in order to reach these higher levels for your weapon skills, but hopefully with this comprehensive revamp to the XP coming from different tiers of enemies will cause you to be gaining a proper amount of experience now. The XP gained from hard to kill enemies has been increased relative to the easier to kill enemies. The XP requirements to level up have been adjusted, so it's highly beneficial to group up and hunt for harder to kill enemies instead of grinding easy kills in the Heartlands. They say that with the combination of the two, there's no more effort to level up to the skill cap if you solely kill easy enemies, and less effort if you group up and go after the hard enemies. This sounds great to me because it felt kind of weird, where players were almost forced to soloing in order to get a proper amount of experience from things that were in the Heartlands compared to grouping up and going into dungeons to get more experience from the elite enemies. With these changes, it's going to allow players to get more experience, hopefully, from doing those group activities, which is what PAX Day is all about. It's supposed to be a social game, so this is a really nice change to see. Hopefully, when we get our hands on it and we get to test it out, we actually realize that you do get a substantial amount more from killing the elite enemies, and it makes it worth it in the long run. Furthermore on XP, the XP earned when in parties has been tuned. Enemies intended for soloing now distribute the XP across the party in a manner where the total XP earned by the party is the same as if you were soloing the enemy. And enemies intended for parties now give an increased amount of total XP based on the party size, for an up to 3.3 times their base XP for a party of 6. So the most effective way to level up should always be to party up. I really hope that this reigns true because, again, as I was stating before, it's really frustrating to have a social game where you have big clans and groups coming together in order to take down stronger enemies, just to have the experience be not as worth it and forcing people really to solo in order to level up their skills. XP gained from animals has been significantly increased to make it easier to level up combat skills related to hunting. I have a concern about this because I'm wondering if this means that farming animals would be the most efficient way to level up now, because you can pretty much one-shot a lot of the animals in the home valleys, and I'm just wondering that with this increased XP, if it's going to outshine the reward for grouping up and going out into the more dangerous areas. I guess we'll be able to see once we actually get our hands on this patch and start testing all of these fixes out. I think they're probably referring to the bow skill here, since that's predominantly what people are going to be using to take down deer and other things like that related to hunting, but I guess we really won't know until we do get to finally test it. If that is the case, I would think that they could just lower the XP requirement on bows in order to make them level up faster as a whole. They also fixed a bug related to some enemies giving 0 XP and other enemies giving more XP. Overall, I think that the combat XP changes are going to be very good for the game because they're going to bring more people together. They're going to allow you to group up and get proper amounts of XP. They're not going to be forcing people into solo play anymore in what should be a very social experience. So far, these patch notes are off to a great start. Let's see what else they have in store for us in this patch. The next category we have here is spells and weapons. Bow damage has been increased across all tiers. The arrows provide a stronger progression on damage. Bow damage has also been increased throughout the whole item power range, and the bow handling and draw speed increases faster with item power. Now, I don't think too many people have really experimented a whole hell of a lot with the bows this patch as of yet because they've been left underwhelming. Some people just use bows for pulling enemies, but to be honest, in dungeons, the bows are kind of useless because if you use them for pulling, they tend to range, aggro, pull all kinds of stuff to you, and it just becomes an uncontrolled nightmare. We find it much more controlled to just range pull by getting close to an enemy, having it see you, and then backing up to your group in order to take out the enemies in dungeons. The bows can kind of cause a bunch of chaos, so a lot of people haven't really been messing around too much with the bows as of yet. There are a ton of people super hopeful that in the near future the bows get their much deserved love and maybe even get some special abilities and some other benefits to make them worthwhile to use. And maybe, just maybe, we'll even get the crossbows coming back. We did have the crossbows from the early days. It was showing up underneath your weapon skills. Maybe we'll get that back someday. They go on to say that they also fixed an issue that caused Aura of Life spell to cause lingering particle effects and performance drops. Now this was huge. We basically avoided using this spell at all because it was causing such a huge performance hit, so it's nice to see that hopefully they actually got that fixed. And finally, Breath of Joy 1 and 2, Surging Stride, and Spirit Stride now do not interrupt auto-running once activated. This issue has been going on even before verse 3. Even with the original iteration of the run shoes that we had, it was still causing you to interrupt your auto-run, and you actually had to hit the spell and then continue running. It was kind of cumbersome to use, but I'm glad to see that hopefully they finally fixed that issue. Quiet Stand and Sanctified Stance now handle their cooldown properly, consistent with the item slot they are in. They now should also force one another onto cooldown when you attempt to overlap their activations, so you're not going to be able to double up on them anymore. Truthfully, I think they need to really reconsider the whole switching your gear in and out of combat because it still is very highly beneficial to carry other armor with you to swap it out to use those spells in or out of combat and then switch back to your combat spells. For instance, there's an ability that allows you to heal yourself pretty rapidly out of combat on a certain chess piece. It's called Breath of Life. If you carry one of those with you and then when you're out of combat, you simply equip it, cast the spell, and then you can switch back to your other chess piece which gives you more combat prowess. I would like to see them do away with this altogether as it just creates a clunky and not intuitive to use system where people are required almost to carry multiple pieces of equipment and swap them around. If this is the intended use for this, just simply give us both spells then. And waiting for the cooldown is not enough of a detriment in order to prevent people from wanting to do this in the first place. There is now a fix for Divine Intervention. It was really overpowered. It was applying actually both the less than 40% health heal and the normal heal at the same time. So you were doubling up on those heals, getting just absolutely overpowered healing from them. So it's nice to see that get fixed. Divine Shield also got a fix. It now only reflects damage up to the maximum value described in the spell's description. It was actually reflecting more than that, so it's nice to see that get fixed as well. All of these things like this that are overpowered, it can feel bad to have them taken away, but it's good for the game's health overall to get things down to a balanced state where things aren't super overpowered because it's going to allow for more variety in the long run. I always say that more variety is always better as long as it can be balanced, because if it's unbalanced, all you're going to see is those overpowered abilities, and everything else will just go to the wayside. The Great Sword Weapon Special Guard Break now properly forces a block break in PvP. Killmark spell now correctly grants movement speed when the target is killed. Sacrament of Strife healing provided appropriately scales with item power now. They fixed an issue where some status effects were not removed with Cleanse or Revoke. Windlash will now correctly show you the duration of the chained status. A little side note on Windlash, that is an absolutely amazing ability in dungeons. If you have multiples of them, what you can do is you have the first person use them once they get remotely close. Then you have another person use them and it will double stack them up, almost damn near on top of each other, making it a breeze to AoE them all down. They fixed an issue with the Jester's Flask spell disappearing when being thrown at other characters. They also fixed Revoke not removing Divine Rapture stacks from the target. And they fixed all non-damaging spell projectiles doing damage based on the wieldable damage. So overall, some really good spell and weapon fixes. I think there's a couple in there that have slipped through the cracks that are still going to be pestering people throughout their combat experiences, but overall it's great to see that they're getting rid of the biggest offenders as soon as possible. Let's hope that they continue this trend of balancing and reworking in order to make sure that the spells that we have are balanced with each other and are performing as intended. This then takes us to the Gathering category. The hold to interact with resource gathering will now correctly re-equip your offhand wieldable items upon completion. I did notice that this was an issue. It wasn't actually putting your shield back on after you were done harvesting things, so now it should hopefully do that properly. The resource node hardness value now matches the tool's tier required to gather it. Gathering tool damage progression was rebalanced, significantly increasing the tool damage across the whole range. I'm hoping what this is going to mean is that when you go to get those really hard nodes like granite and stuff, they're no longer going to take 15 minutes to just sit there and bust up one node in order to get just a couple pieces of the granite. Hopefully this means that our damage output from our harvesting tools have been significantly increased, allowing us to harvest them faster. The skinning hardness of wolves was increased to 1, and the skinning health was rebalanced for all skinnable animals. I think this means that the duration it took you in order to fully skin the animal is going to be rebalanced now, and hopefully it's not going to take quite so long for some, while others may take a little longer. Moving on to the audio category now. Only has a couple fixes, but hopefully in the near future they can fix some of the bigger bugs that we've noticed with audio. If you guys have tuned into any of my recent gameplay streams for this verse 3 update, you'll have noticed that my audio has been doing some really weird things, where it'll be glitching out at different times. You can hear weird sounds and all kinds of strange issues have been occurring, so hopefully they can get some of that nailed down in the near future. But until then, here's the patch notes on what we're going to be getting with this current hotfix. They fixed audio from water wells being too loud. They polished the audio for the sitting animations. And they fixed an issue with Tempest Command not playing its chain sound on bound enemies. So not a whole lot of fixes for audio, and you guys know my stance on audio. Good audio is extremely important to the overall experience. It's one of those things that goes unnoticed unless there's an issue with it, but behind the scenes it can add so much to the overall experience. Hopefully soon they can get a lot of these bugs fixed and we can get back to having some great audio experiences in-game, because the music and the sounds and things are pretty decent in this game. Let's move on to the crafting fixes and changes. Now, crafting has been a severely sore spot for people in this patch. It has been abysmally difficult and grindy. Let's see what they're going to be doing about crafting with this hotfix. Your recipe list should now refresh whenever you get a level up. When you gain a profession level while crafting and you unlock new recipes, the recipe list now automatically refreshes and you no longer need to manually reopen the crafter. This is one of those nice quality of life things that's just going to save you time and just feel more fluid throughout the process. Not a huge change, but something that needed to take place. This is the huge one, crafting time reduction. This has been a big problem. I spent 4 days in front of a crafting station simply making wooden beams and planks for our blood mason, our builders, in order to build our city. And that should not happen in a game like this. I think that it just completely detracts you from the world around you. You end up AFK crafting inventory after inventory after inventory of materials just to have them get consumed so rapidly. I mean, floor pieces alone are taking multiple stacks of materials. So what you end up doing is just what I did. You'll stand in front of a crafter and you'll make inventory after inventory of beams in order to have enough stuff to be able to build a small portion of a building even. They say that crafting timers were very excessive, especially when crafting gear. See, it's funny that they mention the gear because we haven't really noticed that the gear crafting was even that bad. Sure, the timers to make some of the things were pretty abysmal, but normally you're only making a couple pieces of gear at a time. You're not spending 4 days sitting in front of a crafting station making beams. So I think that the building materials were actually the worst offender here, but they say that they did it especially for crafting gear. They say that they reduced these timers substantially, or by roughly half. So it's going to take you about half as long to actually produce those items now while you're standing at the bench. They're going to continue to monitor feedback regarding them for future refining of the system, which is great to hear. And here's the actual changes to the roles regarding these different crafts. Now, a role refers to whenever you start crafting, you have that bar at the bottom that shows the green and the red. The roles are the intervals that it goes up by, so the little ticks to the red or from the green in order to actually show if you're going to succeed or fail. They have reduced the overall number of those roles. And here's the actual specifics on that. Gear should now take 9 to 12 rolls to craft based on the recipe complexity, down from a whopping 21 rolls. And they throw a little joke in there, AFK coffee break. But that's literally what it was. I'm not joking. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this if you've been playing much of Verse 3, but the crafting has just taken so long. And we all found this kind of ironic considering they were saying that they wanted us out and exploring the world more and less time stuck in front of a crafting station. It just felt like the complete opposite of what they were wanting for us in the game. So I'm hoping that with these reductions in roles, it's going to actually equate to us spending less time standing in front of the crafting stations and more time out in the world like they claim to want us to be doing. Once fully mastered, these crafts should only require you 3 to 4 rolls now to complete. I'm hoping that this also carries over for building pieces such as beams and planks and things like that, and it's not just for gear, because in my opinion, the worst offender was the actual building pieces, not the gear. They do say here that other non-gear recipes should also be slightly faster. Now again, in my opinion, hopefully these are the ones that have the most changes because they were the worst offenders. I mean, you need to make hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of these things. Now I guess if you're still leveling your armor smithing or your weapon smithing, you're still going to need to make a lot of those pieces as well, but you're going to need so many beams, it's ridiculous. I do hope that these can see a significant reduction in time required to make them in the near future. That brings us to recipe unlock progression. Many crafting stations, particularly processing crafters, previously had unclear progression paths that often left players confused or blocked. Now this is a big one as well. There's a lot of confusion going on with the current crafters, and I think this is a side effect of them attempting to not do a full wipe. I think if there was a full wipe, we would be learning this stuff as we were going through it again, and it would be much less jarring. But because we retained our skills and we lost all of the recipes, we had to retouch things that we once knew how they were made. That, coupled with the significant changes to the requirements that are going into making a lot of these recipes, left people very, very confused. They say it wasn't always obvious what each station was for and how to progress in the associated profession, largely due to missing or hidden recipes. Again, I think that this is made that much worse by us having retained our skills. If we started from the ground up, it wouldn't have been as big of an issue. To improve this, they've made recipe progression more transparent. More recipes are now unlocked by default, and key recipes that were previously gated behind obscure item requirements now unlock through skill progression instead. They say these changes affect many crafters, including the spinning wheel, looms, tanning racks, charcoal kilns, pottery kilns, furnaces, tailoring tables, and leatherworking tables. Overall, I think this is a great change that's going to lead to you having better flow within your desired professions. Hopefully you won't get as confused as easily now when trying to figure out where things come from or what they lead to. They also say there are more crafting stations that are unlocked by default. They wanted to smoothen out some basic progression discovery at the start, and therefore the Founder's Crafting Table, Basic Charcoal Kiln, and Log Workbench, and the Basic Furnace are now all unlocked by default in the building menu. They also touch on the furnace parts and the many reports that they got from people saying that they couldn't find the furnace parts, and they apologize saying, sorry, the recipe can now be found in the basic forge, as it should. There are a couple items that were not intended to be in the game anymore, such as the steel anvil. But they address this, saying quite a few items accidentally made it into the game in the latest creation. Same with recipes or items visible in the journal that shouldn't have been visible. A lot of these were either depreciated items or placeholder items that may or may not be part of future content releases. All of these should now have been properly removed, and the example they give is the steel anvil. Next up is a big one for me, being an alchemist, nightshade fruit. The recipe for the Tier 2 alchemy workbench mistakenly called for a deadly nightshade fruit, which tragically did not exist. It now correctly asks for nightshade fruit. They say, please note, we still do not recommend eating it. Side effects may include confusion, nausea, alchemical mishaps, and/or death. This was a really interesting one because the deadly nightshade does exist in the game, and when you harvest it, you get deadly nightshade leaves, but it's just that the fruit wasn't called deadly nightshade. I thought maybe they were going to rename the fruit to be called deadly nightshade fruit, but instead they just made the recipe require nightshade fruit. So now when you harvest the deadly nightshade, you'll get deadly nightshade leaves and nightshade fruit, which will allow you to properly craft your Tier 2 alchemy workbench. They go on to talk about crafting blessings at max level. When using a profession blessing at level 40, it's supposed to take you to level 41, but it didn't actually do that. Now, it will take you beyond level 40, bringing you up to level 41, making those extra difficult crafts just a little bit easier. Now, we did not actually know that this was the case, which is kind of disappointing because we've been actually using this blessing thinking it was increasing our rolls at these higher difficulties. Well, turns out we were just wasting our grace. There are a couple other various fixes that we're going to go over now that they have implemented with this hotfix. They fixed an issue in the Construction Hammer user interface where, quote, claim a plot to start building crafters, end quote, in German and French exceeded the designated space. So I guess what this means is it was actually like going outside of the bounds of the box, making the full sentence not readable. And they updated localization in several instances, probably to increase the readability in the translated languages. Clay should now spawn in greater density around water in addition to new spawn locations near cliffs. This has been a big issue actually. People have had a hard time actually finding clay. It's actually funny. They've had issues with this going all the way back to the alphas where clay was super abundant, then it was impossible to find, then it was super abundant again. They seem to be having some troubles trying to get clay balanced in the world. Hopefully with this hotfix, you're able to find the clay you need in order to continue your construction, build those bricks, make those shingles, and get all the things you need crafted in order to get your houses and castles brought into the world. Hunters have discovered a breakthrough in animal carcass logistics. You can now pile up 20 of them. So it's been pretty abysmal. You were only able to actually stack 5 animal carcasses before. This will not retroactively update, so make sure you go back to any of your storage boxes or containers, cabinets, chests, all of these things, and take the stacks out and then put them back in. You could do that by holding the left Alt and then just clicking them. It'll take all of them out into your inventory, and then when you do the same to put them back in, they will go back into these higher stacks, thus giving you more space in your chests. The game will no longer switch to walk mode when opening inventory while stationary or when interacting with crafters. That was kind of a weird thing that kept happening. Anytime you'd interact with one of those things, it would put you into walk mode and you'd go to move and you're like, wait, why am I walking? I should be running. These next couple are kind of important for FPS and readability and playability of the game overall. So I know these may sound like small changes, but these are going to be pretty impactful, I think, in combat, especially in larger groups. For those of you who were tuned into our last stream where we were running dungeons, you saw just how many numbers were popping up on stream. Well, the Spirit Regain floating text numbers are now only visible to the user. This is going to be really, really big. You're no longer going to see other people regaining spirit, at least in the form of the numbers popping up on screen. You'll still get to see their blue bar increase, but you don't have to see the floating text numbers because it's really not that important to you anyways. And the healing floating text numbers are now scaled down when targets are at full health. This is also a great change because it'll make the healing numbers that are overhealing a little bit smaller and making them a lot less intrusive. I would like to see a full suite of customization options for all of these numbers. like games such as World of Warcraft have, where you can turn these numbers on and off, change their size, slide them off to the side, and all kinds of other customization options, really allowing you to tailor the UI to what you want to see on screen. Maybe you're not a healer and you don't even want to see the healing numbers. That should be an option. The arrow recipes in the crafting menu now show the intended item description. This is a pretty big one here. They fixed an issue where swapping equipment items, which shared the same base granted spells, meaning the spells that just come on that armor, they would lose the ability to determine the granted item, and thus their item power, causing them to fall back to their minimum stats. I think a lot of people probably just didn't even notice that this was happening, but if you switched between two pieces of equipment that shared the same spell, it would default to its weakest variant, no matter if you switched back to the stronger one or not. Now, they should properly be able to distinguish between the two, and your spells should become more powerful when you equip the higher item power item again, making the spells more effective in combat. This is a huge one. This next thing I'm about to talk about is going to be absolutely detrimental to so many players. I think a lot of people are going to quit the game over this. They're going to rage quit. They're going to throw their computers out the window. They're going to flip their desks over in a rage of fury. I'm completely joking, but it is actually a very big thing because a lot of people knew exactly how to get this bug, and it's going to be fixed with this next patch. That is the ability for players to get the run bug when passing zone boundaries. They say that they've fixed it. We're going to be testing that. I actually found another way to get the run bug, or the stamina bug, and that's after you die now. So we're going to see if that one still persists or if they fixed all of them. But according to Mainframe, they have now fixed the run bug that you can get when crossing zone borders. We always used to joke and say that the game would die as soon as they removed this from the game if we didn't have mounts at the same time that they fixed it. The reason people are saying this is because we don't have other forms to get around the world more quickly other than teleporting right now. People really enjoyed their run bug, and I think a lot of people are going to be really, really sad to see that this has actually been fixed now, if they were actually able to nail it down. Players can no longer open the redeeming queue and redeem items while they are dead. Consumables now correctly show the cooldown of it instead of the duration of its effect. They fixed some areas close to the province edges that had an unintended non-blocking landscape mesh. Not really sure exactly what that means. And finally, teleporting while wielding a hammer no longer results in an extra cylinder in game view. And there you have it. That is the entirety of the June 18th patch notes for verse 3, the big hotfix that has just dropped. It's actually live right now. You guys can hop in and see all of these changes in their full glory. Let us know what you think about these changes down in the comment section down below, because I want to hear from you guys. I want to see what you think about all these changes. Are they good? Are they bad? Are you indifferent about them? What other changes do you think they need to do to PAX Day in order to bring it up to where it needs to be? I want to hear from you guys in the comments section. If you guys are looking for a great gaming community to hang out with awesome people, make great memories playing fun games, join the Cheeky Buggers United community Discord server. You can find links here on the channel in order to join that community Discord server. Everyone is welcome over there. If you guys would like to take it to the next level and become a verified CBU member, you can do so by going over to our website, www.cheekybugger.net, where you can fill out your very own application to join the Order of the Blood Brothers. Now, the Order of the Blood Brothers is just our PAX Day clan. We have all kinds of clans, guilds, orgs across a multitude of different games. We are a gaming community first and foremost. So if that sounds good to you guys and you want to become a verified member, which allows you instant access to all of our private servers for various games like V Rising, Dune Awakening, Icarus, Valheim, Minecraft, and many, many more, consider going over to our website and submitting an application. We review those on a case-by-case basis in the order that they're received for the most part. We do our best to get to every single one of those applications in a timely manner, but sometimes we get bogged down around big patches and stuff like that for various games as people want to join the community and get verified. We also have the Fellowship of the Free Cities kicking off with verse 3, where other clans can come and apply to join the Fellowship of the Free Cities. They get representation on the Free Council as well as being promoted from within. We have a special category on the Discord server, over on the CBU Discord server, where we promote all of these chartered free cities. Now, as always, everyone is always welcome to come and live by Bloodhaven and interact with us in all sorts of different ways and have fun in PAX Day and other various games. But if you'd like to become a chartered free city, you can do so by going over to our website. Again, that's www.cheekybugger.net, and you can submit an application under the corresponding category there, and then we'll be in touch on Discord. Just send me a message, void_lock, for more information. But I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy day to sit down and talk about the different patch notes that are happening here on PaxCast. Now, I know that this episode was not live. Most of my episodes of PaxCast are indeed live, where I get to interact with you guys in real time and hear your thoughts on things that you think are good, bad, or indifferent in real time. But sometimes I have to pre-record these. I am actually recording it this morning, right before the patch actually goes live. I think it's actually going live as I'm actually recording this, but I hope that this can still help a bunch of people understand better what's going to be in this patch so that they can know what to test going forward. As always, huge shout out to all of my channel members. It is because of your continued support that I'm able to bring these unbiased views about PAX Day and many other games to you guys as fast as I possibly can. So thank you for your continued support. If you guys would like to become channel members, you can click the join button down below this video. There are 3 different tiers to choose from. I really, really appreciate you guys for all the continued support. But that's going to do it for me for this one. Until I see you guys in the next one, bye for now.